Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Wealth Building Wednesday, where we answer your money questions with style and grace. To ask your question, go to buildingwealthtogether.com and click Ask JJ or leave a voicemail at 1-833-4-ASK-JJC. Normally we'd answer questions, but today we've got some wealth building teaching instead. Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to Wealth Building Wednesday. Today I have a treat for you. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest speaker today. His name is Eric Seropyan, and he has a long history of promoting small businesses online. He grew up and lives in the South Bay area, which he says has been a pleasure. How many of us are in business so that we can get to live in where we want to live and enjoy where we want to live, right? All right. Eric is an SEO and SEM. We'll talk about what that means later. He's an SEO and SEM expert and the founder of thisismysouthbay.com. Today, we're going to talk about using hyperlocal SEO in your quest to building wealth. Eric helps founders, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and small business owners make sense of searchability and marketing on the web. Thank you, Eric, for being here today. Welcome to Building Wealth Together.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into this business?
Sure. In my past life, I used to be a jewelry designer and manufacturing and wholesaling and retailing. And when the Great Recession hit, you couldn't give away a diamond. People were not interested in buying. They were interested in making sure they don't lose their homes and lose their jobs and things like that. And so I started to educate myself on this thing called marketing, and more importantly, on digital marketing. And so I really took to search engine optimization. And at some point, I pivoted over to my own agency, which is called This Is My South Bay.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And it's interesting because a lot of us made a jump. Now, when you talk about the Great Recession, are you talking about the real estate market crash in 2007? Or are you talking about 87?
No.
When all the SNLs went out and put all the real estate investors out of business?
I'm talking about in 2006, 7, 8, 9, when all that craziness happened.
Yep, $845,000 of debt. Ask me how, I'll never forget those years. Okay, so burning question. Most people in this audience have heard of SEO, but just to level the playing field, can you please tell us what is SEO and SEM?
Sure. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. So basically what happens is when you go to Google, Bing, Yahoo, search engines, and you type in something that you're looking for, and you have the search engine results page, the SERP, that comes up that has about 2 or 3 results at the top of the page that are sponsored and a couple at the bottom of the page that are sponsored. So that fat middle there that has about 10 per page is organically listed by Google. So Google is making a connection between your website and what the user is looking for and ranking your website on Google. You can't buy that real estate. It's there because it's organic. And so what we do is we optimize our clients' websites to be listed on those search engine results page on Google. And SEM, search engine marketing, is kind of the method which includes SEO, but also includes paid placement and contextual advertising and paid inclusion. So SEO is purely organic, and then search engine marketing covers the entire spectrum.
Okay, and so SEO is part of your SEM strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that those spaces there, those next couple of entries can't be bought, because I think sometimes we feel like, oh, it's all rigged, even though it doesn't say sponsored. It probably is a hookup somehow. But everyday entrepreneurs can actually optimize their website, especially when you talk about going hyperlocal, which to me, I'll tell you what that means to me in a second. But especially when you talk about going hyperlocal, that any of us that are listening or watching today have the opportunity to get ourselves on that front page. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing. It levels the playing field between big companies and small businesses, and so it's an exciting thing for businesses to be able to compete with Costco down the street, or whatever the case may be. You're able to compete if you're optimizing your website correctly.
And I want to give a quick example for especially for our new listeners, because we talked a lot through COVID and did a lot of financial help for folks through COVID. And now we're, seeing COVID rise again. But one of the things that I had talked about with COVID is that, every 10 to 12 years, there's a disruption in the market. And in the whole COVID market, in the whole COVID disruption of the market, one of the things that we found out is that hyper local businesses were able to rise above big national businesses. So where DoorDash and Waiter and all of them were unable to really deliver because of the volume of increase due to COVID and the restrictions of hiring people, those who were able to just be a local company, they were able to be agile, they were able to be responsive, they were able to meet the need, and I could get my red Thai curry in 15 minutes instead of 2 hours. And those companies found a niche, they were able to build relationships, and then they were able to sustain when things kind of got back to normal. Whether they stay that way, I don't know. But to me, the whole term hyper local, and I want your definition of it, but I just want you to know where I'm coming from. When I hear that term, I think about you're really customize and customize and catering to a specific audience, your town, your specific group. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about hyperlocal?
That's exactly what we're talking about, because Google can kind of figure out where you're logging in from. And so to back up, Google is trying to deliver the best possible user experience to us as we're searching. So it wants to make sure that if you're looking for a mechanic in your town, that you don't have listings that come up for a mechanic from the other coast or from 2,000 miles away or whatever. What happens is when Google delivers results that you're not happy with, and you go to that website and you're like, I'm in Dallas, why am I seeing a mechanic or a restaurant in Philadelphia or whatever? You don't remember the website that you went to, you remember that Google sent you there, and you have a bad experience with Google. And so that's what Google's trying to avoid is that negative feeling. And so when we're talking about hyperlocal, on our end, what we try to do is we lock in on a territory, and it depends. Let's say, for example, there's a restaurant, and maybe people will drive 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles. We try to understand from our client, what's their radius. And then there are suburbs within there. I'll use an example for Los Angeles. Los Angeles has, under the umbrella of Los Angeles, has, Venice Beach and Santa Monica and downtown LA and all these different suburbs that, to go from downtown LA to Orange County might take an hour with LA traffic. So if you're going to go to a barber or to a restaurant or a local business, you're not going to be searching a larger radius. And so what we want to do is, if we have a particular business, let's say it's going to be a restaurant, French, somebody types in French restaurant. Instead of doing restaurant or French restaurant, we might do delicious French restaurant, Santa Monica would be the keyword. So we would go after the long tail keywords, so that Google knows that over and over again, when we create content, that where we are geographically. And once it goes in, the way that Google does it is periodically, it'll go to your website, it'll knock on the door, your website will let them in, it'll go crawl the website, spider the site, take whatever data it sees relevant, and go and post it on Google. It could be that you're ranked number 1, it could be that you're ranked number 100 and no one's going to see you, but you'll be indexed if it's done properly.
And how do we make sure it's done properly? I mean, like, how do we know what keywords to target? I mean, you gave a very good example, delicious French food or French restaurant in Santa Monica. I mean, that's pretty targeted. But then, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, I guess I need to start letting Google use my location. Otherwise, I'm not getting the best searches. But if I'm a business owner and I do financial planning, and I'm thinking, okay, there's 1,000,001 financial planners out there, how do I know what keywords to target? Or somebody, like, I have a lot of paparazzi independent distributors who hook me up with bling, right? How do they differentiate themselves? How do they know what keywords to target?
Sure. So when we're onboarding a client, we start with two things always. And most people, they overlook this, but I think it's essential. One is we do a keyword analysis, which is we take your website or the client's website, and we have tools that we use: Ahrefs, SEMrush, Moz, SpyFu, etc. And we see which keywords we are ranked for. And then we do that same exercise with our clients' competitors. So everybody has, I'd love to be like this person, or I'd love. So we do that same research so that you don't have to sit there and pencil to paper and staring at the ceiling and trying to come up with keywords that might work for your business. Because when you get past the first 10 or 20 keywords, a lot of times it's more work to figure out which keywords are essential. And so we do a competitor research. Let's say we take 10, 20 of the competitors, we make one report, and then we take out the doubles, triples of, because there's a lot of overlap between competitors. Mm-hmm. And then we see which keywords have a higher search volume and a lower competition level that makes it more realistic for us to start ranking quicker.
So
we want relevant keywords, that I don't want to rank for keywords that we go through all the trouble and it's not something that the client wanted anyway. So we want relevant keywords for the business. It's part of their core competency. We get a higher search volume and we get a lower competition level. So we kind of lock in on X number of keywords to go after per month, per quarter, depending on their budget. And that's how we do that. And so same as we're checking on our keywords, we can check on our competitors' keywords to see where they're ranked. It'll give, the reports say, let's say, for example, we'll stick with mechanic. They're ranked for the keyword mechanic. They're ranked number 42. It gets 10,000 searches a month, etc. Like the report we have these reports that come in as a third-party app. So it's literally, we're downloading it and sending it to our clients.
Well, now I'm beginning to see some of the things that I've done wrong in the early days. So this is going to speak to one of my other questions for you. But like, I'm realizing, hey, here I've been looking for what are the most searched for words, or trying to figure out what I got knocked upside the head last year about, you need to look at what your competitors are doing and not, not to steal content or anything, but if they're doing something that works and you're not, then you need to kind of shift to model what they're doing in your language, your words, your story. And I was resistant to that because I'm a very nerdy, wordy person, and I want to see all the words. I didn't want to see the pictures and all that on the websites. But I also didn't think about the aspect of, hey, I don't just want the most searched for term regarding this business. I want the one that's going to be I want to find that balance between highly searched for and not as many other people in that space buying that traffic. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. So I'll give you an example. So back in the day when I was optimizing for my jewelry company, I made the mistake of going after the keyword jewelry. But under the keyword jewelry are, all the different color stones and diamonds and earring, bracelet, necklace, costume jewelry, watches, everything. And it's not traffic that is convertible. And also, secondly, it's almost impossible to rank in the top 10 for the keyword jewelry as a small business. There are just giants out there. And so, for example, I realized that I need to go after, let's say, for example, men's platinum diamond wedding band. It might get 100 searches a month, but I have that. It's priced well, it's built right, and it's going to convert. It's going to have a higher conversion rate. And so we went after the long tail keywords as opposed to just jewelry or diamond jewelry or, things like that.
Because you may not come up in a search on jewelry, but if somebody does men's platinum diamond or men's platinum diamond ring, you're up there at the top.
Exactly.
I love this. I love it. See, I learned
so it's like much. A laser beam. You want to do it like a laser beam as opposed to a shotgun blast. And that's where this reporting comes in that a lot of companies, they skip that and they just go to, one word keywords that they're going to go after, like, describing their industry, like accountant and lawyer, mechanic, and that's not going to get it done. You have to be more specific so Google understands what you're about, because you could be a accountant or you could be a lawyer, and it could be you just specialize in divorce law or real estate law, or there's 100 different ways to slice it up. So you have to be very specific so that Google, when it goes in spiders, understands exactly what your strengths are, what you're specializing in, where you're located, and doesn't get, because if it leaves confused, then it's not going to rank you.
Okay. Yeah. And we hear confused buyers don't buy, and confused Google doesn't rank us. So there we go. Oh, this is great. Well, actually, it's great on one hand. Like, one of the things I love about the Building Wealth Together podcast is I get to meet so many cool people who are experts at what they do. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I probably need to bring in an expert because you're telling me about so much. But there's something else before I talk about hiring an expert. There's something else that I would love to pick your brain about, because every time I turn around, it seems like Facebook is not working the way it used to, and I don't do a lot of Google yet. So other platforms on me, it just seems like they're always changing the algorithm. Can you talk a little bit about what this means, how it relates to Google, and what it means for us as entrepreneurs when they say they change the algorithm?
Sure. What these platforms are trying to do essentially is to preserve the life of their business. They want to make sure that they are serving their users first. And so they keep tightening things up. To give you an example, back in the day, there's this thing called link building that's still going on. It's kind of like I write a blog article about you on my, and I make a clickable link from my website to your website. So the more websites you have pointing to your website, the higher authority you're going to have in the eyes of Google. Like, I think highly of you that I send my people from my website to yours. And so what happened was people caught on to that. And so people started to do, hey, I'll write you an article and you write me one and we'll exchange links. And so Google realized, that's not the essence of this idea. Is, you want to be able to have a one-way link coming in. So all the marketers out there, they went and they did all kinds of link exchange programs, and you had nothing to lose. You would write something for them, they would write something for you, you would get a link. And so when it made algorithm changes, a lot of those websites that thought they had 1,000 incoming links, suddenly overnight, when the algorithm changed, had 3 links. And so that affects their ranking. And so often they're doing things to make sure that they're providing the best possible search results to its users.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. I wish I would have done this before when we were chit-chatting before the show, but now that it's on my mind, back in the day before they came out with the multi-tab browsers, I was part of this group and we used a browser called Crazy Browser. That was the first multi-tab browser. And the whole point of being in this group is every month and it was free. You could buy more credits, but me, I was cheap, but financial planners generally tend to be frugal, not cheap. So what we would do is I would go in and I would spend an hour and I would open up 8 different websites in my Crazy Browser, because that was like so phenomenal. This was like 15 years ago, right? Like the internet was still blooming. And every time I looked at somebody's website, I'd get a credit for somebody else to see my website. And so I would spend an hour nursing my baby, doing whatever, click, 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 click. And I actually generated a lot of traffic to my little fledgling business back then, just by doing that kind of a click exchange. I haven't heard anything about that in recent years. So I imagine that kind of strategy doesn't work. But does that matter to Google, how many people get on your site? Like if you're paying Managergram or somebody else to send people to your site to click once or twice?
Well, I'll answer it in different ways. I don't know of this program. I'm sure programs like that existed, maybe still do. I'm not sure. If you spend the time that for your listeners out there, the time that you would spend trying to get around Google, if you spend it just making sure that you do things that Google is happy about, you'll be better off. So you're not going to fool Google in the long term, you know. And so that's my advice on that. The thing that the thing that makes a difference in your ranking, to answer your question, is when somebody comes into your site, there's something that everybody should have on their website, which is called Google Analytics. You attach it to your website so it keeps track of how many visitors you got per day, per week, per year, etc., where they came in from, if it's mobile, if it's desktop, if it's tablet. If it's mobile, what kind of mobile device is it, which part of the country they came in from, or the world, like all kinds of information. And so you should have that on your website. One of the things that Google looks at when it's reading those reports is it looks at average time on site and how many pages did your visitor go to. So let's say I had 100 people that came to my website and they stayed for 2 seconds and they left. 95% of them left. That's not a good metric. If you have, out of 100, you have 95 that went on at least another page, maybe stayed a minute, 3 minutes, whatever, then Google's gonna think, okay, I sent to this website for this keyword, and they seem to be staying on, and it looks like it's a good fit. Now let me try these other keywords. Let me rank this website for these keywords. Let me see how that goes. Let me sit back and watch. And so you have to keep in mind that SEO is kind of a long game, and whatever keyword you're going after, your business is going after, there's already somebody there that's ranked for it. So gone are the days where there's nobody ranking and you can just spin up a site and you'll be in the top 10. So you have to consistently prove yourself to Google that I'm worthy of being ranked here, and here's what I'm doing.
So when you say consistently, that means you can't it's not a one-hit wonder. It really is a monitoring over time, understanding the changes in the algorithm, understanding what's how the migration of search terms and the conversion of search terms. It really is quite a bit. So it makes me think, okay, most of us as entrepreneurs, once we've tested out our concept and we know that we have a business idea that's going to take us where we want to go, that we should really look at bringing in experts. And I'm just going to give Dwayne some of y'all who are Building Wealth Together fam, you've heard me talk about Dwayne Z, who set me up with the Google Analytics, and I found out that the things that I was spending money on to advertise my business really wasn't helping send any meaningful traffic to my website, whereas these other things that I was participating in for other random reasons, not necessarily to advertise the business, were sending an overwhelming amount of traffic to my site. So then I was like, well, now that I see the data, I knew where to go. So somebody can sit in the situation and say, okay, I need an expert for SEO, for SEM, but I'm worried that that's going to be prohibitively, that's going to cost me an arm and a leg. So is there a way for entrepreneurs to bring somebody like you on their team that's not going to ruin their business or run their business into the ground cost-wise?
Yeah,
that's a loaded question. I know. Put you on the spot a little.
I think back in the day with my jewelry business, that's the first place that I would cut when things slowed down, is the marketing budget. And that's usually the place that you should never cut, because you constantly need to generate new leads, new clients, because there's a lifetime value to a client. And also, things happen where people move on to another business or they do whatever, and you end up every so often losing clients also. So you constantly have to have fresh blood coming into the business. So there are a couple ways to do it. You can, we have a program that's our mentoring program, where we meet half an hour on Zoom and we screen share and we look at reports and we give tasks so they can do for the following week. It's almost like being a business coach, where and you don't have to buy all these apps there are apps, like I mentioned, that you run the reports to see where you're ranked, your competitors are ranked. Some of those are anywhere from $90 a month, or starting at $50 a month, going to $250 a month. And you need a bunch of different apps that doesn't make sense unless you're a marketing company sometimes. But you need to know. You can't just be shooting in the dark and wasting time. And so they're
wasting time and money.
Exactly. And so I have the mentoring program. That's kind of to get people up and running for about 90 days or so. We meet half an hour a week. It's starting at about $250 a month. So that's something to just kind of get a better understanding about your business and what you can do, and be held accountable. Now you can also do, we have package plans that start at $1,500, $2,500. I didn't come here to talk about that, but depending on what you want to do, you can go online and search for SEO companies and kind of get an idea. You kind of need to make sure you know how to read the reports and be able to understand what's happening. I have things where even if we didn't have a good month, we run those reports and we send them, and we say we had a slow month, our ranking went down. It could be that a new competitor came into the field. It could be that the content that we created wasn't great. It could be 100 different reasons. And because search engine optimization is not, you're not buying the traffic. Google owes us no explanation why they dropped our ranking. And so we always are playing detective and figuring out if the website is slowing down because we have a lot on it and the load time is high, or we got a bad review, or whatever the thing is. We're always playing detective and trying to figure out so we can get, keep heading in the right direction.
Well, I think about how much money is wasted on ads and other forms of marketing without ever actually doing the optimization to make sure that ad is going to be successful. And this is one of those things where I know, I seem to get beat upside the head a lot. Maybe I'm just hard-headed and it's the only way I learn. But I remember when Joseph Bojangles said, look, if your free stuff isn't converting, your paid stuff isn't. So I haven't really, one of the reasons I was excited to interview is because I wanted to start getting into Google. But I've been doing Facebook ads, and it was like, yeah, they're not converting at all. I'm spending hundreds of dollars and I'm getting one sign up, right? Well, because I was doing it all wrong. And so to me, when you say $250 a month for a 90-day program where they're going to sit down with you for 30 minutes a week and screen share, and whoever's got the question, and you're going to go through what the reports look like, and you pay for the subscription to the stuff. I'm like, I'm a very frugal person, but sometimes you spend money to save money, and you spend money to save time. And you also spend money to let somebody else be an expert in their space. And so I'm super, super glad that you came to visit with us today. I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how they can connect with you and dig a little bit deeper into these concepts. I've got your website here. I'm going to go ahead and post it. So y'all should be seeing that link right now. But can you just for those who are listening audio only, can you go ahead and let them know where they can find you?
Sure. If they go to my website, thisismysouthbay.com, and click on the Book Now button and book a 15-minute free consultation. I'll answer any questions that anyone has. We can run some reports. We can have all kinds of fun on Zoom. We can screen share. We can get on a phone call, depending on how they want to do it. And I'd be happy to hear from your audience.
I'll tell you what, I wish I would have thought about it earlier. We could have set up a do JJ's website, but I'm in the process of changing my website, so we are not doing that today. But yes, all right, Eric, thank you so much for being on today. You have absolutely educated me, which is why I love doing this, and I know that you have educated hundreds of others who listen to Building Wealth Together. Before we go, do you have any last tips for our audience today?
Last tip, I would say a lot of people, they try to choose between social media marketing and search engine optimization. And one of the biggest metrics that Google looks at when it's deciding whether to rank you or not is your social media campaigns.
Oh, really?
So, yes. So let's say, for example, your last month you had 90 followers. This month you have 100. Next month you're going to have 110. You have people that are liking, sharing, following, commenting on your posts. It's a positive metric versus if it were to be in reverse. So you have to do the two together. And you can take some of the content that you have on social media and use it for your blog posts and for your optimization for content creation for your website. So it's not exclusive that you have to decide, I'm doing this or this. It goes hand in hand.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. And actually, now you've given me another idea as far as repurposing that content. So this next version of jjconway.org is going to be phenomenal. All right. And when I get it up and running, I'm going to get a consult with you, man. And we're going to see what we need to do to search engine optimize that bad boy. Okay. Thanks again, Eric, for being on with us today. On behalf of myself and all of the Building Wealth Together family, we really appreciate you dropping this knowledge today. It's going to help people change their lives, change their businesses, and change the world. And for everybody who's watching or listening, I want to thank you for being a subscriber, watcher, listener, friend of a friend of a friend for Building Wealth Together. I appreciate you. I love you. Y'all take care and be blessed. Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.